I, 35 male, have been with Abby, 35 female, for 13 years now. Every day that goes by, I love her more and more, and we're expecting our first baby. For the holidays, we always spend 2 to 3 months visiting my wife's family. But the problem is that this year, all the family was really excited, saying that Alan was coming. In all the years I've been a part of this family, I never heard of an Alan, and my wife didn't even care about it, so I thought it was just some cousin. But the famous Alan was my wife's ex and first love. The man lives in Europe, but Abby's family still has contact with him and even invited the man to the house now that he's in the country. I tried to get along with Alan, but the man just ignored me and took every chance he had to get close to my wife, making jokes or talking about the past. I didn't take it personally because I didn't want to look jealous, but lately he has been coming every day to visit the family, and Abby's family started comparing his accomplishments to mine. They're all big fans of Alan, and I honestly feel jealous of that because they're treating him better than me. 2 days ago, I heard my mother-in-law and brother-in-law talking about how nice it would have been for Abby to stay with Alan because he's a smart man. What hurts me the most was hearing my brother-in-law say he could try to get Alan and Abby back together. And my mother-in-law just laughed, saying that it would be good to go on a trip to Europe every year, and not to the countryside with the peasant. Talking about me because I live in a farm with my wife, but just because she always dreamed of living in that kind of quiet environment. In fact, now that I'm no longer blindfolded, I'm starting to notice how my brother-in-law makes too many comments to my wife about how great Alan, although Abby never says kind things about Alan, and I think she even treats him like a child. I don't feel comfortable being here knowing that they see me as a dumb peasant, and it's horrible to see how they try to include Alan in the family when they still treat me like I'm just a casual boyfriend of Abby. But my wife only sees her family these months of the year, and I don't want to ruin that or put that kind of stress on her since she's pregnant. I feel like I'm in some kind of romantic comedy, but I'm in the role of the bad husband the protagonist leaves for the handsome CEO. Well, OP, this is a crappy situation, and here's the thing. You're not part of that family apparently. Your family is Abby and the child that's coming, that's it. The people you're staying with is extended family at this point, and the really crappy one at that. And from what you've told us, it sounds like Abby's family has ulterior motives other than Abby's happiness, because she apparently is very happy with you. She's living the life that she wants in the place that she wants. This is something you definitely need to talk to your wife about. I understand that you worry about her stress levels because, well, she's pregnant. But this is still something that she should know. Maybe you try to ease her into the topic by asking her about Alan and how she feels about Alan, and then you tell her what you heard. And then, you also need to tell her how you feel, that you don't feel welcomed in that house anymore. And if your wife is the woman that she sounds like, she's gonna take you and say, then we're done here, and you guys are gonna go back to the farm. Or she might try to talk to her family and tell her that they're being idiots, in which case you need to be there in case it gets heated to protect your wife from any kind of stress. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? What would you do if you were in his shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Sunshine Bear 100 says, and what does your wife say? And OP responds, my wife just ignores Alan, and when my brother-in-law says those things, Abby just says, if you like Alan that much, then F him. And the conversation ends. When I found out it's her ex, she just said, oh yeah, I dated him for 2 months when I finished high school, and then made a disgusted face. I couldn't ask more because she has been really tired with the pregnancy, and don't want to stress her more. Soul Searcher O says, they dated for 2 months out of high school, over a decade ago. Your wife doesn't care for him and has told you so. She even went so far as to say that if brother-in-law loves him so much, brother-in-law should F him. Tell your wife what you overheard. Tell her that you are hurt that they called you a peasant. It sounds like your wife is aware of their maneuvering and doesn't care, has a lovely life with you, living on a farm, which is what she aspired to. And to top it all up, she's explicitly told you that. Talk to her and come up with a plan together on how to move forward. And OP responds, you're right on everything. But I'm more worried about talking about that with her because I know Abby will fight with her family and even cut contact with them. But Abby has always been very close to her mother, and much more so, since she's pregnant, and I don't want them to fight because I know my wife needs her mother's support. Oddwillcom7940 says, talk to your wife. Stressing her out isn't ideal, but lying to her is worse. This is exactly the kind of thing she deserves to know. You won't be able to stay there without airing this out and potentially seeking some revenge. It will eat at you. You will seem like the bad guy. Talk to your wife before this occurs. Don't demand that she has the answers, but let her know and ask her opinion on how she would like to proceed. My number is Ricardo says, first, you have to talk to your wife. Tell her everything you notice and everything her family has been saying. Tell her you're deeply offended by them and that you expect an apology from them and to leave that very moment. Don't be afraid to sound jealous. You're not. They're actively comparing you and attacking you. You need to be assertive, no nonsense, and nip this at the bud. Otherwise, they're going to start creating situations that damage Abby's perception of you and they will start pushing her closer to him. This is not the time to be afraid to be seen as controlling. Quite the contrary, this is the time to show them you're a man that will not take crap from anyone. Believe me, Abby will like that. Additional information from OP's comments. I had mentioned to Abby that she had never told me about that ex, and she said that Alan was never someone relevant in her life, and she considers me her first love. So I'm totally sure she doesn't even feel anything for him. Abby always responds coldly to the weird comments her family makes, but she is normally resting in the bedroom, and they have never said anything as harsh as what I heard from my brother-in-law and mother-in-law. From what I heard, he lived in the same neighborhood, but they were never close until Abby started dating him. When he moved to Europe, the family still had contact with him through Facebook and WhatsApp, and even some members of the family stayed in his house when they traveled to Europe. So it seems the aunts and cousins are really close with him. They always made jokes about our farm life, and I know my mother-in-law hates that Abby has gone to live so far away from them. She always hides her dislike for me, although I can feel the cold treatment she always gives me. My brothers-in-law always made it obvious that they didn't like me for taking their older sister away. The rest of the family treats me well or just normal, but Alan is really charismatic. Plus, they're all really extroverted people and I'm more on the quiet side, so I think it's easier for them to like him more. Okay, well, the community had different ways to tell OP the same thing, that he should talk to his wife first before doing anything else, that his wife deserves to know, and then they should make a decision as a couple as to how to move forward. And from the additional context and the answers that OP gave, we get that Abby has absolutely no interest in Alan and doesn't really care for him. The disgusted face and telling the brother-in-law that he should go F Alan are pretty big indicators. In any case, it's time to move on to the update to see how this story ends. But before that, if you're enjoying this video so far, and now, let's move on with the update. I found out my wife was cheating on me with Alan. Nah, just kidding. Thanks for all the advice I received. Many of them were very helpful, and some were very weird ideas, like recording conversations with my mother-in-law or having my wife choose between her family or me. Maybe it's something cultural, but I would never give an ultimatum like that because to me, it's a really low blow to do. Here, family is very important. After making the post and reading the comments, I decided to talk with Abby about what I heard. We were in our room, and I talked about what her mother and brother said as calmly as possible. But the moment I finished telling everything, Abby just kissed my forehead and ran with her pregnant belly out of the room to literally yell at everyone in the living room. No one spoke beside an aunt who tried to justify them by saying that they were just making jokes, to which I replied that they were uncomfortable and disgusting jokes. At some point, Abby told her mother something like, "Whether you like it or not, I'm married to this man and I'm going to have this baby with him and many more, so shut up and bear with it." Then my wife yelled at her brothers and went with them to talk in private. My brothers-in-law talked with me and admitted that they were only doing that because they believed I forced Abby to marry me and live on a farm far away from the family, when it was actually Abby's idea to get married in private and live on the farm. So all these years it has just been a misunderstanding. The three brothers apologized to me and were really embarrassed about their behavior, saying they had only invited Alan to mess with me. After that, most of the family members apologized to us. Abby told everyone that she doesn't want to see Alan in the house anymore while we're here. She's not going to forbid them to talk to him, but doesn't want to see him near her because it's uncomfortable. Mother-in-law tried to complain, but Abby just said, "Shut up, Mom," and left the living room with me. In the bedroom, Abby confessed to me that she also felt uncomfortable, but since Alan is a friend of the family, she preferred not to say anything other than make passive-aggressive comments at him. For example, after New Year's, we were all eating and Alan stroked her belly without asking, to which my wife said, "Do it again and I'll bite you." Hence, he never did it again. Abby even said that when she had an opportunity, she actually talked with Alan and told him that she disliked being touched by other people. Abby hates it when anyone touches her belly without asking, even old ladies who don't know that, and it's really uncomfortable for her. Abby always asks people not to do that, but most of them get offended by it. Many people do not respect the personal space of pregnant women with the excuse of caressing the baby. It's really annoying. Still, Alan said she was overreacting and left her talking alone. I feel really sent for not noticing how uncomfortable my wife also felt, because after the belly incident, whenever Alan was in the house was when she stayed most of the time in the bedroom with the excuse that she was tired because of the pregnancy. And just out of curiosity, I asked her why she broke up with Alan if he's such a cool man, because I'll admit it, he's really charismatic. And Abby told me that he always treated her as if he knew everything and explained things that she already knew every time they talked. Abby never felt the need to talk about that relationship because it wasn't relevant. She sees me and not Alan as her first love. I apologized to Abby for not noticing how uncomfortable she was and only looking at my feelings without talking about them as a couple. And Abby also apologized for the same. We promised to communicate this kind of thing to each other no matter what. Yesterday we went on a date together, and when we came back, my mother-in-law looked very unfriendly, but she apologized to my wife, to which Abby said she should apologize to me. So, mother-in-law and I talked for a while alone, and although I'm still upset, we promised to at least be civil with each other for Abby and the baby. We decided that the next time, we'll stay in a hotel while we're here, even if it's a 3-hour drive. It would be better for us to be comfortable. And 3 months in my in-laws' house was always really tiring, so it's something we should have done sooner. For now, Alan is no longer in the picture because yesterday I got his number to send a message clarifying why he can't come back and why I don't want him near my wife. The man just blocked me without answering. I guess he understood. But if he didn't, I don't have a problem in going to talk about it face to face. Thanks for the good wishes to all people who are commenting. I'm sure I will never do anything to mess up what I have now with my little family. Smiley face. OP's added. I showed Abby the Reddit post, and she didn't have any problem with me asking for advice. I'm even posting this now with her hugging my arm. I love this woman a lot. Smiley face. Also, Alan came back to the country because he divorced his wife and is flirting with any woman he meets. So it seems he thought it was a great idea to try and flirt with my pregnant wife. Well, OP, I'm gonna count this as a positive update. Communication once again takes the win. Your wife is just as awesome as we got the impression from your first post. She called everybody out and told them to just shut up. She totally stood up for you and your relationship. And that's what a partner should do when the other partner is being offended by the family like you were. So here's wishing you, Abby, and the baby the best in the future. Take care, OP, and thank you for sharing. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user TSS Caramel. Upper management of the sports club fires me and cripples their kitchen. So I'm a professional chef and I have been for a few years. In Australia, apprentice chefs are trained in a sort of college where we learn about 150 recipes. Now many of the recipes are provided to the students in bulky, finicky booklets that you wouldn't really want to take anywhere with you. So I started writing some of the recipes in a separate notebook along with some other recipes I had learned from co-workers or family members. I created a sort of pseudo cookbook, and I would often bring this book into the kitchen so I would remember ingredient quantities and cooking times. Eventually, I would leave the book in the kitchen pretty much around the clock. What I soon found out was that some of the other chefs in the kitchen were using my cookbook to check official recipes for the restaurant we worked for, as typically the head chef would have to tell them, and this got annoying for everyone. This restaurant was a part of a popular sports club in the local area. Hence, consistency was extremely important to management. As such, having a written record of the new recipes or changes to long-time recipes was very important. As it turned out, management had stopped making changes to the official club recipe book a few months before I even started. So, my book became the de facto official recipe book. For a while, this was no issue with me, and I kept adding new recipes to it throughout the next few years. However, after my 3rd year working there, I finished my studies and became fully qualified as a chef. So, I suddenly became more expensive to keep on as a staff member, and as such, management started looking for any reason to replace me with a new apprentice. Eventually, they found someone to replace me and gave a half-ed reason for firing me and told me to take all your things and leave as you can no longer offer what we're looking for. So, I took everything I owned and left, including the notebook with all the club's recipes. For a few days, not a whole lot happened, but slowly the club's reviews started complaining about bland food, dry cakes, inconsistent classic recipes, and every other food-related thing you could think of. At one point, there were 50 negative reviews in a single day, which was a massive number of negative reviews for our town. It felt pretty damn good, since I felt they deserved it and left me unemployed on short notice. However, I was quickly offered a new job by a smaller restaurant whose owner knew me from the sports club kitchen. The Malicious Compliance. After about a week, I received multiple calls, and after answering one, I heard one of the higher managers at the sports club asking if I could return the book as the kitchen needed it back. I obviously laughed and said firmly that it was my book full of my recipes, so it wasn't going anywhere near them, reminding them that they told me I could no longer offer what they were looking for. The manager clearly began to panic as he offered to give me my job back and just let bygones be bygones. I already had a new job, so I completely brushed off this offer and ignored him. I hung up pretty soon after that. I started putting the recipes from my book on the new restaurant's menu, and it was beginning to attract a few regular customers of the sports club. So I quickly found myself with more and more responsibility and command within the kitchen, to the point that about a third of the menu was from my book. Now this slow trickle of sports club regulars picked up speed after about 3 months and led to several high-level managers from the club deciding to visit the restaurant I'd helped build and virtually demanded I give them my cookbook, claiming that it would be much more beneficial for the community if they had it. My head chef laughed in their faces and told them to piss off. It's been about 2 years and my head chef and I have a very positive relationship. The customer base we have at the restaurant is better than ever. We didn't take every customer from the big club, but it was enough to damage their profits to scare a few investors away, and also lead to a decent bit of damage to one of the higher managers' reputations. Furthermore, the recipe issues and negative reviews led to the majority of the kitchen quitting, and according to one of my old colleagues, they cited the lack of support and organization from upper management as the final reasons everyone was quitting, and this led to an even larger dip in the quality of the restaurant food. I also get paid significantly more at this restaurant than I was at the sports club. Well, OP, they had a very good reason to fire you. You clearly couldn't offer anything of what they were looking for. Some people really like to fight with their bottom line. Just to save a few pennies on your salary, they lost a large amount of money. It's on them. Thanks for sharing, OP, and that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later.